Welcome to Go Rangers Radio, where the New York Rangers are always the talk of the town. If you bleed red, white, and Rangers blue, hail the king, follow the bread man, and know how to spell Capo Caco, then you've tuned to the right place. And now, here are your handsome hosts, Kevin Delury and Paul Cuthbert. They're not always going to get it right, but you can be damn sure they'll pretend they are. Now, let's go Rangers Radio.
Yeah, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Go Rangers Radio. Right here live from New York, baby. Broadcasting on the Go Hockey Media Networks. Yours truly, Mr. Paul Cuthbert. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, your friend of mine, Mr. Kevin Delury. KD, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, man, when you could beat the Devils and the Islanders in the same week, life is good, my friend. Life is good.
Life is good indeed, brother. How are you, man? The boys did us well. They did us proud Monday night. Love it. Beating the Devils too, but you got to love beating the Icelanders, man. We all go into that game not knowing what the hell is going to happen. And they, 19 seconds into the game? Oh, man, the Isles pop one in, and it's not looking good. But, man, the boys stood proud at home, did us right, and come away with the 6-2 win, buddy. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think what really stood out to me was the performance by our guy, Georgie Boy. You know, he's in the midst of this three-goalie disaster, as I'll get into later. You know, the guy doesn't play in, like, a month, so however long it's been since he had played, he lets in a goal in the first, 10 seconds. And for him to come back from that, he really showed no sign of rust throughout the entire game. And, for me, I was real impressed with that showing because he seemed to have been struggling recently in his recent games. Before his extended break, he really wasn't playing as well as he was earlier in the year. So for him to come back with that was great to see. And then, our boy Panarin. I mean, what can this guy not do? He now has, I think, 16 points in the last 4 games or something ridiculous like that. So, it was a great game. You always love beating the Islanders. It was like a year since we played them. So, it was nice to get a win against the fish sticks there.
Oh, the fish sticks. Yes, indeed. I was lucky enough to be invited onto an Islanders radio show on Monday night before the game. In a bar packed with Islander fans, and it was fun. But I walked out of there. It was 1-1. And, hey, look, I'm not a traitor. I was representing, man. I was representing. And I tell you, when we tied it up there, I let out a big, yeah! I was the only one in the bar, and it was great. So, and then I strutted out of there, and all I could think of was the rest of the night, the rest of the next 5 goals that were popped in for the rest of the evening. So, it was good stuff. But, look, Panarin's money. He's been there for us all year. Very few and far between where he's not, a part of the score sheet or a part of any win, or at least even on the losing end, helping us out with points and stuff. So, no doubt about it. You got to sit there and think of, all the different intangibles going on, especially the offseason when the Islanders were also trying to sign him too. And he really showed up for the Ranger fans the other night, big time for us with the 5-point game. So it's good stuff, man. And here we are, man. 45 games in, 22, 19-4, 48 points on the season, 6 points now, buddy, out of the wild card. 7th in the Metro, and 22nd overall in the league. And we pulled a couple points closer to those Icelanders, and we go back at them tomorrow night, and I'm sure it'll be a different game. What's your take on the start of the game the other night there, KD, in terms of guys punching other guys' helmets?
Yeah, I've criticized Lemieux a couple of times this year for fighting while the Rangers are up, and it seemed to sort of go badly for the Rangers there. It sort of went in his face. So you really shouldn't be fighting when you're up. And I think that's what happened to the Islanders. They have the early goal, feeling good about themselves, and they get into a fight with Haley, and it backfires. And kudos to Haley. I mean, he really hasn't played a lot, but he got in there, stirred things up, and it sort of seemed to wake the Rangers up. Obviously, you had the secondary fight there with Smith and Martin, and that weird rule where they both got kicked out because the ref didn't drop the puck, which is I'd never seen that before. Have you ever seen that before? I didn't even know what the heck was going on.
Yeah, I got to be honest. It's the first time I heard. I know I've heard of that, but it's been a long time since it's really happened. Obviously, in a game that I've watched. So yeah, it was kind of weird to kind of see how everything was dished out there after the fights.
I mean, trust me, it was good to see the fighting. It was like the old days in like the 80s and 90s when you saw that a lot. You don't really get the fights as much these days. So sort of brought you back a little bit, a little nostalgia there. But I really think the Islanders were foolish there, to get into a fight because, again, it backfired on them. Like I mentioned, it's backfired on the Mew a couple of times this year. And, it's sort of baffling. You never want to give any team momentum, in that spot, rivalry game. The Rangers come out, let in an early goal, and you're like, uh-oh. And, it sort of seemed, and I think some of the players had mentioned it after the game, that it sort of woke them up a little bit. And there you go.
Well, maybe a little credit there. I mean, this, the goaltending, everything else. Maybe we kind of step back here and kind of watch the last couple of games here. Obviously, a tough night in St. Louis. The guys, fall flat on their feet again. Another frustrating game, non-disciplined, bad penalties, just a mess of a game as far as, playing an experienced top team in the league. And then they come back against the Islanders this year, obviously the rivalry and everything else. But I got to give credit to Quinn. I mean, I didn't read up on it too much or whatever, but I'm thinking maybe that's part of the game plan, and maybe that's what threw the Islanders off the other night. I mean, they've been a very consistent team all year. Obviously, top 5 in the league there. They can pretty much beat anybody. So to beat those guys and to throw them something a little different, I mean, taking Martin off the ice for them for the game is a much bigger impact than us losing Howden there. You know what I'm saying? So that was pretty good. Whether, that was Quinn just maybe sending those guys out there to kind of shake it out and say, hey, let's get this over with. And let's see what we can kind of, ruffle up here and kind of see if we can throw the Islanders back on their heels after them, Eberle getting that opening goal and see what happens. And no doubt about it, man, after that, the Islanders were a different team and the Rangers were a different team. And then all the positive stuff that we talk about with this team, especially when they win, starts to flourish, and it starts in the net. Georgiev has a really good, solid game against them. The defense obviously plays very well. Only giving up 1 goal in the game, which is excellent. And then we put up 6 goals here, and it's spread out. Obviously, Panarin has a fantastic game, but offensively, in terms of defensive, we got Hedl. I'm sorry, that was the other game. But I'm saying, Fast gets on the score sheet. Kreider, Fox, Panarin, and Trouba. And it's all good stuff, man. So it's like, there you go. You watch that game. We're all proud as Ranger fans because they beat the Islanders. But I think also just a complete game from them, KD. And now we have to sit back and see what happens tomorrow night. Which team comes out tomorrow night?
Yeah, I think what's been really encouraging about this team recently, and they've now won 3 of the last 4 games, and it seems as though over the last month or so, it hasn't been perfect, but it seems as though the defense has sort of been solidifying a little bit, dare I say, because it's really been the source of consternation for Ranger fans this year. That the defense has had a tough time, and again, and I mention this every once in a while, that we really don't get into sort of the fancy stats around here. But if you look at the underlying metrics of the Rangers defense over the last month, actually, they've been pretty decent. I mean, they've been horrific for the first half of the season, and actually they've been mediocre. So, it's actually sort of getting better now. And you really saw in the Islanders game, and I'll give a shout out to Dave Shapiro over at the Blue Seat blogs, and he does a good job looking at the team systems and stuff. And he was pointing out how the Rangers, especially in the Islander game, really seem to be forechecking more. And I know we've discussed that a lot on the podcast, but he said it seemed as though they were doing something a little bit different, where they were sending the guys a little bit deeper on the forecheck, the forwards, which then brought the defenders up a little bit more, because the defenders, as we've mentioned a lot, sort of back off the blue line. It seemed that they were stepping up more, and it was forcing the Islanders into a lot more turnovers than really the Rangers defense had been doing all year. So, and they've been sort of showing signs of that over the last couple of weeks. So, and it really seemed to come to a head in this Islanders game where the defense was much more aggressive than we see, a lot less passive, which I've been complaining about all year. I mean, we've all been complaining about it, but so to me, seeing the defense sort of come on a little bit here, gets me excited. I've been saying all year, be patient, be patient. It's coming. Don't worry. Quinn knows what he's doing, as everybody's been yelling at me, that I'm, just like I always say, carrying water for the Rangers, and I'm on the payroll. But, it takes time. Rebuilds take time. I say it every week. So, you're seeing the defense get a little bit better. You improve a little bit of an improvement. It's still a young defense on there. You got Fox and you got D'Angelo and you got Lindgren. It takes time to figure this stuff out. So, maybe it's starting to click, and that's what has me excited.
Wait, where's my shout out? Everything you just said, I said on 3 episodes ago. I said you got to hang. I love this defensive core. I said you got to hang in there with them.
I don't remember
defense. Oh, you are awful. You are an awful co-host.
I don't know. You must edit that in there or something. I
said I love this core. Defenses learned they're going to figure it out, and they have. And I said the offense is always interchangeable. Now, here's the 2 things. So they've improved defensively, obviously. Now, I'm going to ask you, has Quinn been rolling the same lines here in the last few games, or has he been all over the place?
No, yeah, he's definitely been consistent with the lines.
Consistency, yes. Yeah. So you get to see an opportunity here with this team from the net, like this whole goaltending thing, and it's going to sort itself out. We got nothing to lose. I was joking with the Islander fans on Monday night. I said, well, look, the next 3 games, we have 3 different goaltenders to throw at you. So we're pretty stacked. I mean, who do you want to see, right? But, this is the nice thing that you can see with this team when they play a dominant game like that, how talented they are. And when they get this, that's the other thing we've been talking about. What kind of a system is Quinn running? Did we kind of maybe see a little bit of that last night? And we talked about, a week or 2 ago, both of us talking about Quinn being a second-year coach, Trotz being the experienced veteran. If they were to trade places, how would they do? And, hey, look, man, bravo to Quinn, man. He out-coached one of the best coaches in the league the other night. And his team, his youngest team in the league pretty much, beat those guys up pretty good, man. And there's a light at the end of the tunnel here. Obviously, like I was tweeting out, that's great. Let's win like 5 or 6 in a row now, because that would really put a stamp on it. But, hey, that was some good stuff the other night. But leading up to that game, like I said, some consistency. The lines are being held intact. Obviously, we haven't had to deal with any injuries, which has been a big part of our season all year. We've escaped that so far. The goaltending, like I said, whether it's Georgie, whether it's Shesty, whether it's Hank, even though Hank had another tough game there in St. Louis the other night, it's still you're throwing one of 3 phenomenal guys in the nets, and the defense, like I said, D'Angelo, Fox, Trouba, these guys are looking good, and I'm happy with it. I think everybody should be. And I'm rambling on here, KD. You're going to have loads of airtime right now after me, but what I'm trying to say is that, we've been saying, when can they kind of get on a run here? When is that going to happen? I think that's really all this team needs now is to put up 5 or 6 wins in a row to really kind of impress the hell out of all of us.
Yeah, I think that 2 moves that have really sort of stabilized the forward lines was moving Howden to the wing. I think he's looked much better on the wing, where now you have that third line of Hedel, Kakko, and Howden, which has been, to me, an exciting line. I mean, the other night they had a great game. So, I think that they've been clicking, which has been great. And then with Anderson sort of, out of the picture now, the fourth line, they moved McKegg onto that fourth line, the center position there, and they brought Fogarty up. And then on the wing, it's been Smith and Haley obviously was in their last game, but that fourth line has actually been a lot better too with McKegg and Fogarty on there. So I think that the bottom 6 with the moving Howden to the wing and then bringing up Fogarty and moving McKegg giving him basically the fourth line center position, has allowed Quinn to be more consistent with the lines where he's feeling more comfortable and not moving players, into the top 6 out of it onto the fourth line. Out of the lineup and mixing it up. I think he's finally got a sort of lineup or a roster of players that he